7. Good evening, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome in to the Michigan Football Postgame Live. I'm Dennis Fithian. I'm joined by former Wolverine Jim Scarcelli, who's on the line. In Scar, the Wolverines, they take Paul Bunyan's trophy back, and they win this game. It is a final now, 29-7. There's a lots to talk about with this game, but let's just dive right into it. I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about this one. What did you think?
Hey, the first half was tough. You know, they I give their defensive coaches credit. They took away our power play pretty much. Composure was a factor. You know, the Spartans lost their composure a couple times in that game. In Michigan, we never had the late hit, the stupid penalty like they did. Okay, but how about Coach Harbaugh at the end? How about him throwing the double reverse pass and throwing deep at the end? I mean, that tells you what he thinks of this football team. And I like the handshake at the end. I don't know if you saw the handshake he gave Mel at the end. That was pretty much a just a kind of an FU type of handshake. It just kind of went right to the locker room. But I love it. I understand it. We got that monkey off our back, but it was not an easy win. The first half was tough. We settled in, we made adjustments, and we took care of business in the second half.
Yeah, well, they sure did take care of business in the second half. And if I started the first half, I would tip my cap to Michigan State in a lot of ways, the way they played. Now, they ended up getting stopped on 2 4th and 1s. Those were big in the first half, and Michigan was field goaling them to death. But I think the plan of throwing it to 1 and throwing it to 0, and in this case, Keon Coleman, we have seen it. Heck, we saw it 2 years ago with that Ricky White having 197 yards. One wide receiver can go crazy in this series. I've seen it with Plaxico Burress back in the day. So Michigan State throwing it up to Keon Coleman. He had a great first half, and you had to sit there at the break. It's a one-score game, 13-7. If Michigan would have been able to get one touchdown, I think you'd have felt way better heading into the half. Now, so I'll credit Michigan State for being able to do that and get Coleman and throw the ball down there and get it to him. But in the second half, it was all Michigan, and I'll credit Michigan's defense for really coming up and slamming the door shut on Michigan State's offense. They doubled Coleman. They allowed nothing. In the fourth quarter, there were a few plays there for Michigan State, but the game was over, and Michigan really didn't need to score. It was nice that they finally did. You know, they got the punt. I guess it wasn't a block. It was a fumble there at the end, and they were able to take it in 2 plays later to break that seal and really go for the kill shot, being able to get that touchdown with Corum. But the Michigan defense in the second half, and Blake Corum, the way he ended up running the ball, fabulous job by Michigan to go on and win this game. And not just look, it's a game, and it was a second half, and we're talking about this particular game. But if you take a step back and look at Michigan all the way through, it being 8-0 right now, they had close games against Maryland. It was a 17-13 game. It was 13-0 at the half against Iowa. It was tied against Indiana. Remember, it was just a 2-point game against Penn State a week ago, 2 weeks ago, even though they were dominating the game. The 2 plays Penn State made it a 2-point game. So it being a close game at the half, that's kind of the way Michigan's been rolling here in the Big Ten.
Yeah, the first half, Denny, they last year they gave us, I thought their offensive coaches gave us more trouble. We had more trouble adjusting. We were gap sound today. I said that we needed to do that going in. That was one of the goals I had. We were solidly gap sound, defending the run. They ran the ball a little bit in the first half. I always said I wanted to try to make them one-dimensional also, because we've been able to make the last 2 teams we played one-dimensional. We were not able to do that in the first half with Michigan State. We were able to do it in the second half, but we were really gap sound. We made them one-dimensional in the second half. And our coaches did a better job adjusting. I mean, they really just had, like you say, Danny, it came down late. It came down to their offense being, let's throw prayers up to 0 in number 1 and hope for a push off that the refs don't call. That's really what their offense came down to, later on in the second half. But big stop on 4th down. Jenkins and Mozzie. They bailed out Kojo on the turnover. We had that turnover there, which was huge. And our defense was able to make a stop, and it was Jenkins. You'll see it on film. I'm going to go over that play Monday. And what an outstanding job our front did defensively.
Yeah, and, sometimes it sounds like it is, I don't know if it's overrated, but people say, well, yeah, halftime adjustments and, you come out in the second half and whatever, but whatever they are doing at the half, maybe it's just coming out, but they are doing something in there. They decided that it wasn't going to be Keon Coleman that beat them in the second half, and Reed was nowhere to be found in the second half. So the clamps, and they said, hey, we're going to keep everything in front of us, and we are just going to, whatever it was, a bracket, put two guys in that, make somebody else beat them. And they did that, and they just slammed the door shut. You remember against Indiana, even though it was a 10-10 game, Michigan out with the total yards, it was 263-29 in the second half, and it was totally lopsided in this game as well. Whatever they do at the half, whatever they say, whatever adjustments they make, or whatever's going on there, full credit goes to Jim Harbaugh, to Jesse Minter, to all of those guys on defense, and whatever they did to get the defense playing like they did in the second half. I don't know, so you give if you're given 3 game balls, it would be really easy. You'd say you give it to the Michigan defense, you give it to Jake Moody, and you give it to Blake Coleman, Corum, the Heisman Trophy finalist.
I tell you, Denny,
a game ball too, Scar.
Yeah, I tell you, my MVP though on our offense is JJ McCarthy. I don't know how many times he stepped up in the pocket. He felt the pressure. He broke contain. He stepped up, made first downs. Corum is solid. I love him. The thing I love most about Corum is he secures the darn football. How many collisions that kid takes, and he secures the football. But JJ McCarthy was outstanding, stepping up in the pocket and running for first downs, long runs. He was outstanding. So and then Moody again. Moody's just Mr. Consistency. And defensively, there wasn't one guy. It was a no-name defense. It wasn't one guy. It was just a solid defensive. But the big thing, Denny, I think that got them out of what they wanted to do in the first half, Michigan State, was we got the ball in the first half, and we had a 5-6 minute drive. It ended in a field goal, but we controlled it. Now we got a 9-point lead, I think, and they started to panic, and they come out throwing it, and we got them stopped 3 and out. Their first series. Now we get the ball again, and we go another 5-6 minutes, and now we score a touchdown. Now we got them really panicking, and they just want to throw, and then we go 3 and out again. So now it's just steamrolling.
Scar, if I said to you before I took any feedback and before I took a call on Spaces, or bring Trevor McHugh in, who I see has jumped on Spaces here, anybody else can request and get on as well and get their points in. What if I said to you that, these are sometimes you say, well, this is an obvious thing, but I'm going to ask you some of the obvious questions. Can Michigan field goal teams to death? Are they going to have to expand the offense, the passing game? Are they going to have to play better in the red zone against Ohio State? Is this a recipe that can take them to Indianapolis?
Listen, I'm going to give credit to Michigan State's defense. Their coaches are a heck of a lot smarter than Penn State's, okay? And you're not going to have guys that make mistakes defensively every game you play. And they made things tough for us. We put 29 on them. And yes, we're not happy with field goals, okay? But we did a lot of good things. We only had the 1 turnover on offense. But I don't know how many times in a lot of the stuff we did in the past to fool people, Michigan State adjusted to it. So I give them a lot of credit. We did some things with shifting that gave them trouble. Our first touchdown, we came out, we shifted, we moved things, we did something we never did before, and we had Corum on that's coaching. That stuff is all coaching, man. And what else do I got here? But MSU did a great job of taking away the JJ RPO keep. We've been running that play and the power play. and JJ keeping the ball on the keep. They took those 2 plays away. They gave us we had to really rely on our inside zone was probably our best run play.
What about J.J. McCarthy overall as a passer after, I'll say 8 games? He took over in game 2 as the starter, so 7 games. There were, he's got a rocket arm. Does he need to develop more touch, more accuracy? There were some throws, in this game here that he started hitting some, but there was a chunk in that game, I don't know, from a lot of the game, where you're looking and you're saying whether he was a little bit off, a little bit amped up. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I saw him miss Ronnie Bell on a real easy little rollout. That was one pass I saw him miss. But then I put it on the receivers just as much as I put it on him. We have to get more separation. I mean, I watched Ohio State today. You want to see defensive backs that'll cover? That's going to be a whole nother deal. We got to get separation to give him a bigger window, and he's got to do a better job when he does get that window. But I thought JJ was outstanding. I thought Corum was outstanding. Donovan is got to step up. I don't want to sound negative or anything, but there's a difference between him and Corum, and Donovan's got to get there. And he's still only a young kid, but he's going to get better. But
I love the Donovan Edwards, whatever they schemed up. They got him on a linebacker right up the middle in the first half. That was after they stopped.
That's a great point. Yeah, Danny, you're right. And we did that with I got this on my notes. I think Michigan State made a big mistake moving that big number 4, that linebacker kid. He's been coming off the edge. No one could block that kid the first 4 or 5 games of the year. And now they moved him to inside linebacker because I think they had injuries. And I think that was a mistake for Michigan State. And we exploited them. We exploited them with just like you said with Donovan, and we exploited them with Scooney too many times. And that's coaching. That's coaching mistake on their part, and that's Michigan coaches taking it because that kid couldn't cover our tight end or he couldn't cover Edwards.
All right, let's hit the lines here. Trevor McHugh from the Maize and Blue is on the line, and he gets up here to talk a little bit about Michigan and what he saw in the game. And let's see, and let's put him up there. Trevor, you are, I guess I have to push the button, which I'm trying to do. And let's see, requests. Here it is. It took me a second. There you go. Trevor, good to have you in tonight. Of course, it's always great to hear from you. Let's I don't, you can't see me doing the chop like Mel Tucker. I'm saying, let's chop it up. Jim Scarcelli, Dennis Fithian, Trevor McHugh from the Maize and Blue Review.
Hey, gentlemen, how you doing? Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I don't know if you've seen it online, Dennis, but there was another fight in the tunnel after the game. Looks like 6 or 7 MSU players got a hold of one Michigan player. It's just ridiculous. Sorry, but yeah, doing well.
No, tell me a little bit more about that. That's something that I did not.
Yeah, look it up. Charbonneau's got it tweeted out. I don't know what started it, but there's 6 or 7 MSU players bringing. I can't tell if it looks like number 1, so it's either Anthony or McBurrows. I don't know if McBurrows was dressed, but they're bringing him like towards their locker room and just pulling on him and pushing him and throwing punches.
Well, I guess we're going to see a lot more of that. You could tell right at the end of the game, it wasn't a clean, all right, well played and good luck the rest of the way. I mean, it was the people were kind of milling about in there. There was no post-game interview on the field. So, yeah. That's
no, I mean, it was uncomfortable. Jimmy didn't take his foot off the gas. We got a trick play, Ronnie Bell, deep pass, and then another deep shot after that. So, losing to a rival the way Michigan State did tonight, just getting dominated and then having them do that at the end, which I don't have a problem with because, again, if you don't want your rival running those plays on you, don't get boat raced by them. That's what I tweeted a little bit ago. So I don't have a problem with the call, but yeah, that's a good way to raise up some tensions at the end of the game there.
Yeah, and Scar, you said you didn't have a problem with the double pass, throwing the ball down there either with the game ahead. Blackledge was asked specifically. He said he did have a problem. Back in the day, you would just run the ball. Hey, throw it. I'm like with what Trevor said and like what you say, Scar. The other teams out there, you want to stop them in this rivalry and how it's going. there's no go ahead and use anything you want next year. This is a nasty rivalry. So if you're looking for everybody to, play clean and, looking for everybody to pat each other on the back, I mean, like, that's not happening.
Yeah, maybe Todd Blackledge needs to learn how to analyze defense. He's going to blame Junior Colson. He's going to blame our linebacker on that deep pass. He has no clue what was going on in that coverage. There was a breakdown with a safety, and he wants to blame a linebacker. So the hell with Todd Blackledge. I'm going to defend a Michigan linebacker who this guy doesn't understand defense. So anyway, that's my thoughts on him tonight.
Yeah, and I'm just like, any part after where if there's like this particular rivalry, if you had somebody from Michigan State there, it'd say, well, no, Mike Hart started it. Then you'd be like, no, D'Antonio made fun of him. And then Michigan fans could, go back to what was the vote? Scar 1974, Bert Smith, and Michigan was outgained Ohio State, but the quarterback broke their arm. But
Bo never forgot that. Bo used to tell us that story every year. He never forgot that when we played Michigan State.
Well, that's right. That. And Tuck this week was taking it back to the 50s and how Michigan didn't want Michigan State in the Big Ten. So this is going, if you want to play the what about this, and you started it, and whenever it started, it's been since birth. Nobody gets along. They certainly don't this week. Even though you go out to the tailgates and everybody's hanging out and seem like they have a good time. It explodes online. It explodes with the players. They don't. I know, Scar. You said this week that you've got a lot of friends that are Michigan State fans and former players. But it's an aspect of this. It's an aspect of a lot of rivalries. But this one is it's a nasty one. It is.
Yeah, hey, it's 3rd and 10 there though. What do you want Michigan? He threw a deep pass. We threw a deep pass, 3rd and 10. I got no problem with that. But then he and Jim's a competitive guy. That's a guy I've always known, man. So he thrives on that kind of a problem with the enemy. He thrives on it. So, and his team will thrive on it too. And we backed it up. We backed it up with performance, and we backed it up with composure. Their guys lost composure. Their guys had the late hits against the Michigan guys. We didn't have one. And I talked about that being a big thing in this game. So that was really good. But Denny, real quick, man, couple defensive guys I just want to talk about. I thought Sanistril did a good job in coverage. And how about the young freshman Johnson? He come up, made a great play there. Get him out of down in distance there. So really good job with our secondary. I think we just had the one blown coverage, and then they get the big pass on the push off. I thought our edge players were pretty good. We played about 6-7 of them in there. McGregor had a big sack. Morris had knocked the pass down, but we're playing so many, and there's really not a big difference in them. But I thought Jenkins, if I had to put an MVP, Denny, for the defense, it would be Jenkins. Jenkins was flat out outstanding again, playing his gap, and really, really had a good game, in my opinion.
I think that's an outstanding pick. Trevor, I want to ask you, Scar just said something, and it just started making me think of the old Jim Harbaugh, like you saying, hey, this is Jim Harbaugh and what he's doing. What I remember when Jim Harbaugh was coaching back for Stanford, and they beat they were a huge underdog, and they beat USC, and Harbaugh was going for scores late in that game, and they got to midfield, and they were shaking hands. Pete Carroll said, "What's your deal?" And Harbaugh shot back and said, "No, what's your deal?" Hey, what's going on? That carried over to the 49ers and the Seahawks. I can remember I was at the game when the Lions were 4-5 or 4-5-0, and so were the 49ers, and they came into Ford Field, and San Francisco beat them, and the handshake at the end of the game was Harbaugh slapping Schwartz on the back or smacking his backside or something, and those kind of guys running after each other, and you thought maybe the two coaches were going to fight. Trevor, what about maybe this is the old, I don't know, red ass, or this is the old Jim Harbaugh of old, on the sidelines for Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, not completely on the sidelines, right? He doesn't lose it like he used to, but in terms of just comments and the way he's carrying himself, I mean, Harbaugh is used for clicks more than any coach in America. People know he's polarizing and whatever. And when he's down, nobody gets hammered on more than Jim Harbaugh. So for him to, let's think about where he was just a couple of years ago in 2020 and the contract extension and the pay cut and then, all of the money he had to earn by proving it on the field. And, he made the comment about betting on himself, and he did, and he won, right? So at this point, Michigan now has a victory against every single Big Ten team, the last game they played. And they're the defending Big Ten champions, and they're undefeated. And why not, act like this, man? I don't have an issue with it. And I'll tell you what, old school Jim Harbaugh is going to be back in a minute, too, because once he finds out that it was Jaden McBurrows, by the way, once he finds out he got jumped in the tunnel, I can't wait for those comments.
I just hope nobody from Michigan is going to be suspended or he got any kind of problems, because we did a great job. We did a great job keeping our composure.
Wait till you see the clip, man. He is walking down the hallway and 8 or 9 Spartans grab him. It's really bad.
Okay. Let me ask both of you, because Lauren is asking this question, and I'm going to ask Scar, and I'm going to ask Trevor McHugh. We'll get to anybody else that's got their hand up on Spaces. We'll get your feedback as well. I think a lot of people are thinking about this. They certainly were, as Jake Moody was kicking 4 field goals and then a 5th one from 54 yards. But Lauren says we can't leave all those points on the field against a quality team. And the first thing you say is, you're exactly right, Lauren. That's what everybody was thinking. But can they field goal Rutgers to death? Can they do it against Nebraska? Can they do it against Illinois, a team that I watched today? I think they actually can play the way that they played today, with the defense in the second half and tons of field goals in the running game. What we're talking about is Ohio State. Let's start with Jim Scarcelli. Scar, can Michigan play the way they did today and beat Ohio State? I know you watched Ohio State.
Yeah. Listen, I said it in our review Monday, Denny, that Michigan State's defense would be a little more of a problem for us. They match up. They match up better for our defending us than they do against Ohio State. I said that, and it played out like that. And Michigan State plays good red zone defense. I mean, I saw them at Washington down there, stop them. I don't know how many times on the goal line. They do a good job. They got a real good defensive line coach. I've watched the guy coach. He's coached at Air Force. He's a good defensive line coach. And no, we're not happy with it. Okay, obviously we want to score touchdowns on down there. But they took away our power. They took away the JJ Keep stuff. And, our coaches are going to have to, they'll go in and review and say, what the heck did these guys do? What do we got to do differently? And they're going to find answers, man. Our coaches are smart. We're not happy. The coaches aren't happy, and they will get some answers. But looking at Ohio State today, Penn State ran the football on it. If Penn State had any kind of offense that doesn't turn the ball over, they could have won that football game, because their defense played pretty good. But yes, Denny, we are on an upward trajectory. The Michigan football program. We got these Spartans behind us with a win. We got better. We're coming out healthy, and we're moving forward.
All right, over to Trevor McHugh. Lerone says, can Michigan leave all those points on the field against Ohio State? What's your thoughts about that?
I mean, the short answer is no, right? Especially on the road. Remember, we had a lot of these conversations last year too, and then against Ohio State, Michigan didn't settle for field goals, right? And instead scored 6 touchdowns, 5 of them coming from Hassan Haskins. So the 2 offensive issues, we'll call it, or things that I see the fans commenting the most on. One of them, I believe, is something of concern, something Michigan will need to fix to beat Ohio State. That is the red zone issue. The other one is, taking the deep shot. I keep saying that. Why aren't they throwing it deep? That's defensive scheme. Sometimes they're doing a really good job, like Michigan State today. You got to give Michigan State credit. They did a really good job. But they think the way to win is to get JJ to make mistakes when he's rushing out. And so far, he has been really, really good with his decision making and on the shorter throws and taking what the defense gives them. And defenses are going to continue to scheme, thinking they can force them into mistakes similar to what happened against Penn State, right? The bobble and the late throw that turns into a pick 6. They're playing two high safeties and press on the line, and the receivers just, I put more blame on the receivers than anybody. They're just not beating the defenders at the line, and then they're not getting separation down the field. So Roman Wilson especially is getting bullied at the line and then consistently getting double teamed anytime he's going on a fly route. So Michigan's going to either have to find another option there. Dandrell Anthony comes to mind, right? Somebody that's going to be able to stretch the field there, or this is what the defenses are going to continue to do. And then as far as the red zone, yeah, I'm with a lot of people on that because it's something that's got to be solved. It is frustrating, but if you think you're more upset than the coaches, you're wrong. That's the biggest thing I'm going to tell you. The coaches are going to figure it out. They're not sitting there going, yeah, we're happy with field goals. They know it's something they're going to have to shore up, especially before they get to Columbus.
Yeah, I agree with you. We got to have faith. Our coaches have been put us, continue to make adjustments, put our players in good positions. But Denny, how about special teams? This is the first time it kind of let us down a little bit, jumping off sides and giving them another possession. That's like a turnover there. They did the old, clap deal. And sometimes you get guys on the punt return team to jump off sides. And I know exactly what Michigan State did because high school coaches do it. And our guy bid on it. And that was not good. And then I see Henning out there trying to catch a ground ball bouncing around. We're up 22 points. He's got to be smarter than that. But Moody was outstanding. As far as our kickoff team was good, and Moody, again, that whole deal there. And I keep talking about the long snapper, Danny. I keep talking about the backup long snapper, how important that is. You don't think about it because I've been there as a coach. Our backup long snapper is in the game right now. Kid from Macomb County here. I saw him play in high school. He was fine. He was good. He didn't have to snap it too many times. But the Michigan State kid, it was a factor in this game. The backup long snapper from Michigan State. Old Scar's always talking about special teams, but it was a factor in the game today.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, he almost airmailed the time before that. You got to give it up to that kid with those goggles up that went up, 10 feet in the air to grab the one. And then the next one, he wasn't able to bring in. Trevor mentioned Matt Sharp. What's his name? Is it Charbonneau? Trevor?
Yeah, Matt Charbonneau. His video is the one that's all over the place now.
I have the video. I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to give you the play-by-play. I'm going to give you the play-by-play. It's the tunnel, and you can see nothing but yeah, you've got 6 Spartans harassing Jaden McBurrows. They've got him down to the ground. So, yeah, okay, let's take 6 guys and, have some kind of blanket party. Go ahead, Scar. Tell me what you see here.
I don't understand why they're not, when I played, the visitor would always walk in first, get in the tunnel. We just never had these problems, man. I don't understand it.
Scar, that looks like that McBurrows. Now, I'm not saying that this is right. Is that him in the Michigan State locker room?
No, that's the tunnel leading up. That's the tunnel leading up into the separate locker rooms. It looks like they had him dragged. To me, it looks like they've got him dragged.
The only reason he's in the locker room is because they dragged him into it.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. They were dragging him into the Michigan State locker room because they're walking up the tunnel there, and that's.
So McBurrows hasn't been playing, so I don't know if he kind of skirted back because nobody else is really there. You see, one other Michigan, official and a half. So he's clearly into the tunnel before the rest of the team. And I'd like to see the 10 or 15 seconds before that.
Yeah. There's so much that we don't understand there. There's so much that we don't understand what was said, what happened. I don't know. I don't even want to really comment because so much I can't, we don't know.
No, for sure. But I've given James Franklin's comment in the previous week, right? And then seeing this again now, I think something has to be said about, in his situation, James Franklin was on video screaming and being as much of an instigator as any of the players were and arguing with Michigan people and not getting his team in the tunnel. And that was Harbaugh's frustration, was just get your team into the locker room.
Yeah, I was there for 5 years, had 0 problems in 5 years. So I don't understand it, okay? 5 years, I walked up that tunnel, never saw a problem with another team. So now it's happening. I don't get it.
No. So, that's, again, maybe I don't know. I'm on the verge of making a big statement. Maybe I'll wait to see more, but that's that speaks volumes about more than those few players. That's what I'll say.
It's a hell of a video, I can tell you that. You were right. Like, not knowing anything, like just looking at wherever you're coming in from.
Hey, Danny, a couple of things I just want to mention that, kind of get off to some of the great things that our Michigan team did today was that the big fourth down stop on when Mel went for it on, that was a great stop. That was scheme. Our coaches made a great adjustment.
The first one at midfield?
No, the one on the goal line. The one on the goal line. I mean, the one at midfield was just Mozzie and Jenkins. Jenkins made that play with Mozzie. I'm going to show that Monday. But then again, fourth down on our goal line. That was our coaches adjusting to their formation. Our players adjusted perfectly and just totally stuffed that play. That was coaching and that was players. And then the greatest thing about that stop was that our offense took the darn ball 80 yards and we kicked the field goal, but we got, we changed that field position, which was huge. So that was a great stop. And then we went down and took it down and changed the field position. So just some things I saw that our offense did that, got us out of that situation.
Yeah. The defense was so good, especially the secondary. I said early in the week, something that stuck out to me analyzing the numbers was the disparity in Jaden Reed's production in zone compared to man, where nearly all of his production was coming from zone. So I expected with, Michigan consistently relying on their corners and man that would happen. And Jaden Reed was largely shut out of the game, right? Early on, Coleman gets some big plays. I think there could have been a case for OPI on the one deep shot, but, it is what it is. In the second half, we saw an adjustment. Rod Moore, huge step up as being the extra player coming over the top as the safety there. Turner, Green, Johnson, Sainer-Still, they all seem to make plays at different points. So I thought it was kind of poetic and a little bit of foreshadowing after Molly McGrath said, Tuck said, they can't cover our guys. They can't cover our guys. And they absolutely did in the second half. So Jesse Minter wasn't kidding. This is year 2 of the defense. It has not only been the same as last year, it has evolved. It's gotten it's incredible. The play calling's been great. The scheme's been great. And the players are executing. And that's the benefit of being in the second year of a system and not having to implement new things. Now you can pepper in the new stuff to make it better, but not having to relearn, the actual scheme or the terminology or anything. The defense is looking really, really good halfway through the season here.
Blake Corum, 33 carries on the game for 177 yards and a touchdown along of 17. Yeah, Keon Coleman, 5 catches for 155 yards. But Jaden Reed, 4 catches for 17 yards, which was a surprise. John pointing out on the feedback that Coleman had 3 catches in the first half, 2 of which he pushed off and should have been penalties. There was some hand fighting there. I think I know where he's coming from. You could make a case for that. In the post game, I'm looking online. Blake Corum sat down. He said, they said Tuck was coming. I thought Tuck was coming. So there's some of that's going on here.
Yeah, well, let's, I don't want to get into all that talking now. It is what it is. The game's over. Hopefully there's no suspensions or no problems with that. It's a good win. I would have liked to seen our backup quarterback get in there at the end. Still don't know and haven't seen the guy in there yet. So, but a lot of good things. Denny, sometimes, we'll look as coaches and say, okay, what did they do to take away our our RPO stuff with JJ Keepin? What did Michigan State do? Other people are going to look at it now, and Michigan's coaches are going to have answers. What did they do to take our power play away? Our coaches are going to have answers, and that's some of the stuff you learn. But dominated on DJ Heisman hype type for Corum. What's not talked about is Coach Harbaugh and his ability to hire the right pieces. Absolutely right, Adam. Focus his team, and Minter has looked like perfect coach for our. Absolutely right. That's the thing Saban's done more than anything. He keeps losing coaches, Denny. Keeps losing coaches every year, and he just reloads with new coaches. That's the sign of a great leader, and that's where Jim, he lost both his coordinators. Everybody said, what are we going to do without Gaddis? Guess what? We're hanging 40 a game now, and Gaddis can't do nothing down there in Miami. And now look, we lose McDonald, and Minter comes in. We haven't missed a beat. So that's a sign of a good program with a great leader at the top. Absolutely agree with you.
Scar, tell me what you saw from the Michigan secondary. Very impressive. They look like they tackled really well in this game. They look like they had overall the secondary had an excellent game. Jaimon Green didn't get his head around. We were talking about some of the with Keon Coleman. He made, the guy's he's a hell of a player. You go up, you throw a 50-50 ball, you're going to have some of that jostling. You're going to have some of that pushing off. I'm sure Green, will look at that. He wants to get his head around. But, man, you look at the secondary. I think about DJ Turner coming in one time, stripping the tight end. What do you think overall of the tackling and the play?
Yeah, overall.
One down, got an interception. Go ahead, through them all.
Yeah, overall, Danny, we are throwing a lot of different stuff. We do a lot of different things. We are not predictable. We are not just man. We are not just zone. We are multiple different stuff. They can't get a beat on us. Okay. They get the big pass. Their touchdown on the kid. You can't coach height. He's a big kid. He made a play. He made a great catch. And our guy was on him. And our safety probably could have been there to help a little bit, but I would not beat up my guy for that great play that kid made there. The problem I have later on was the big pass they had down in there with Blackledge wants to blame our linebacker instead of our safety and our coverage over the top. That was a breakdown there. But overall, you're absolutely right. Good tackling, good coverage, not giving up big plays. But we had a mental mistake today, but really good.
On a scale, this is from the captain on the feedback. And if you're out there, if Trevor's still there, he can jump in. Anybody else that wants to jump in on Spaces, your opportunity to talk about Michigan winning this game and anything about this post game that's going on, we'll fill you in. There was some scuffling that continued in the Lloyd Carr Tunnel. The Lloyd Carr Tunnel is only 2 games old, and we've had 2 incidents in the Lloyd Carr Tunnel, but Michigan is 2-0 as they led this game 13-7. The feedback from the captain is asking the question. We go to Jim Scarcelli on a scale from 1 to 10. How satisfied should Michigan fans be?
It's a victory over a team that spends all year working on beating you. Okay. Michigan State spends all year, spring football, fall camp. They're going to devise things. They're going to save things. They're going to study Michigan. Okay. They're going to do their whole program is focused on beating Michigan because their coaches know how important it is for recruiting. You got to win this. You got to win the state of Michigan. So I'm satisfied with the win. Okay. I'll take it. I'm satisfied with it. That those were not, that's not a bunch of stiffs that we beat. We made them look like stiffs. Okay. I think our defensive, because their offense gave us problems last year. Their offensive coaches kept us off. We were just out of sync last year. That Jay Johnson, I was really impressed with that offensive coordinator from Michigan State last year. And I think our defensive coaches did a better job of getting our players comfortable, getting our players in schemes that we weren't at a disadvantage. We played gap sound defense like we talked about. So I'm satisfied. The only thing about this game, we had the turnover. We did a couple things, but is settling for field goals. But, a 22-point victory against our rival who dedicates 365 days a year to beating you, I'll take it, and I'll celebrate tonight.
Yeah, I'll even take it up a little bit higher. I think that Michigan and the fan base should be extremely satisfied. The goal, and however you want to look at it, I'll tell you how I look at it. It's getting to November with a chance to play for a championship. And Michigan is now going into November as at least the number 4 team in the country. They are heading into November undefeated. They've got Rutgers, Nebraska, and Illinois before the showdown in Columbus. They're sitting pretty. No, are they looking like they're the perfect team that should be ranked number 1 and that you think that they're going to win the national championship if they continue to play like this? No, but can they should you be encouraged by how they have played, how the defense has stepped up in the second half? As much as, we're talking about settling for those field goals. If it's coming back to J.J. McCarthy, if it's coming back to the play calling, if it's getting to the wide receivers, they've got some things to work on. If they are able to take that to the next level, well, then we are talking about a championship team. And so I like the position that they're in. I like heading to November. By this time next week, they're turning back the clocks. Michigan feels like they're turning back the clocks where they're playing for a championship, where it's going to come down. They've got a few games, but it feels to me like it's going to come down to the last Saturday against Ohio State for the Big Ten championship, or this time around, at least to go to Indianapolis and then to even play for more. So I think Michigan fans should feel ecstatic and where they're sitting right now after this game.
Yeah, I think we should feel good.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, Dennis, I hate to do this, but it's a big story, and I've got information coming in. So at this point, the police are involved. Harbaugh's comment specifically was 2 of our players were assaulted. I saw the video. It's 10-on-1, pretty bad. I'm going to let our athletic director, Ward Manuel, address it with the authorities. The police, as well as MSU's athletic director and Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren, are communicating currently outside of the Michigan State locker room, and at least one Michigan player is injured. Rumor is potentially a broken nose. So it's a real ugly situation to end this game, but that's where it is right now.
That's terrible. I coached high school football for 25 years. When I was a head coach, one of the scariest things I had to deal with, one of the most important things was, as soon as the game ended, is getting my team to the locker room. I had to have all my coaches assigned to different areas to get my team to the locker room. And shaking hands was this thing that had to be monitored. It looks like Coach Harbaugh is going to have to do the same thing. He's going to have his team, rally up and go in together and making sure the other team is in the locker room. This problem will get solved, and it's sad that we have to do that.
Yeah, Josh just said he comments from Ward Manuel. What happened after the game is completely unacceptable. Kevin Warren is looking into it. Police are looking into it. So, yeah, I don't know. Just ugly. Too bad.
Hey, let me comment about Antoine real quick, Denny. Antoine, I see it exactly like you do. I think sometimes he's tippy-toeing in there a little bit. He's still young. I'm going to keep the faith. He's a game breaker when he breaks the linebackers. But, yeah, sometimes I see him tippy-toeing there a little bit.
You're talking about Donovan Edwards. The question coming in on the feedback.
Yeah.
Antoine saying Donovan Edwards tiptoeing.
I agree with.
He needs to hit the hole hard.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have the same vision that Corum does. When the hole is there, he does hit it, and he can be explosive. But he doesn't seem to see the things happening before they happen, kind of thing, right? That's what makes that next level back elite. Obviously, not ready to bury the kid at all. He's a very, very, very unique talent, but you can see a difference between Corum and Edwards for sure.
I want to get a thought from Scar and you, Trevor, because this is, Michigan wins this game. We've talked about where they're sitting, the things that they need to do. Not that this post-game fracas, it is very newsworthy. And this is the part that I'm going to. Scar, you played football all the way back, in the 80s. And there's a part about the competition, and there's also the part about, crediting your opponent, and after the game is done, even if it's a rivalry and all of that kind of stuff. Now, we know it's a heated rivalry. We know it's nasty. We also know where we're at in 2022. I'm watching the political ads. People, people are throwing each other in the bath. It's just nasty. The point out, let me see if I can make it quickly. It seems with the elections coming up and just how nasty everybody's getting, and this rivalry as well, back and forth, blank you. And for a lot of people, they say, hey, I love this part. Let's just sit back. Let's just tell it like it is. Let's get after each other. We're not friends. It's heated. And yet it's competition. Possibly this is what's spilling into. Scar, am I making too much of that, Trevor?
Well, Denny, listen, it's
where are you at with that?
I get it. There might be some fans that like that kind of stuff, but at the same time, I'm putting that hat on as a coach, okay? And one of many things you teach your players is how to handle winning and how to handle losing. Okay, you're constantly teaching your players lessons. And when I played that Paul Bunyan thing, we didn't even see that. It never came on the field. Nobody picked the thing up and carted it around the field, stick it into the face of the opponent. It just didn't happen. It was something that was exchanged, after the game between the equipment guys. But now it's now you march it around, you stick it in people's face, and you talk, and it's just, But again, like I say, as a coach, you have to make a decision about what are you trying to teach your players, to talk trash after a game or to shake their hand, get in the locker room. It's different, man. And again, that's where I stood on it, because I know what I tried to teach as a coach. I know what my coaches tried to teach me as a player. So it's frustrating to see some of that stuff.
I'm going to, Trevor, before I go to you, I just say when I think about how the game was played, off the top of my head, I know there was at least two. There was one early on Michigan State. They had an unsportsmanlike, and they had that one late after they got a first down. I don't think Michigan was close one time over on the sideline of shoving somebody out of bounds, but I don't know if they picked up any unsportsmanlike penalties. Michigan seemed like they played a pretty clean game and played to the whistle in this game. Michigan State had a lot of penalties, and they did have the two unsportsmanlike. That was just something I was thinking about. Trevor, you have any thoughts on the sportsmanship angle of Michigan State?
Yeah, I mean, I do think you're right. I think there's just an element of tribalism and divisiveness that has reached a level where respect can be lost. It's at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun on the field. Yeah, that was probably arguably one of the cleaner Michigan State games we've seen in terms of, we've seen chippiness, we've seen heads get turned, and weird things like that happen on the field. But for it to happen after, and then even, after COVID, when fans started coming back, there were so many storming on the field, throwing things, and it was almost like people forgot how to behave, right? Like there's this element of it, this loss of just being adult, class, and responsible. As I say that, I'm looking at another video here that's probably going to start breaking. There's a gentleman reaching over the rail in the tunnel as Mel Tucker is coming out. I don't think he touches him, but he's definitely reaching for Mel, and Mel takes a swing and knocks his hand back really hard. So this is just a high tension game where these are only two moments I've seen. I hope there's not more. It's just ugly, and it's really, really unfortunate. And Jim's right. I obviously didn't play at Michigan for 5 years, but one of the most important lessons I was learning, and one of the things we value about sports so much for young kids, is learning that sportsmanship and the hard work and all those values that come from sports. And it's just a shame to see things like this happen so often.
All right. Do you have a final thought, Trevor, as we continue on here as it's a little Michigan State post-game live show on the Maize and Blue Review?
Yeah, I've hardly talked football. So before I log off, let me just say that. I do think that was a really good win. I think that was, the first half was probably frustrating for us, but that's what we all thought it was going to be, right? It was going to be closer and uncomfortable in the first half. Michigan State was arguably going to play one of their better games of the year. That's just what happens in the rivalry. And then in the third quarter, the Michigan coaching staff and the adjustments they made and the players stepping up and then, just sealing the victory and getting comfortable from there out. So, again, as far as the run game, as long as the defense is going to let Blake Corum run and let JJ take the easy stuff, they're going to win that way. I'm sure the red zone will be a conversation. I'm sure it's something the staff's going to work on. But you can't feel bad about a 22-point win over a rival. Never.
Hey, Denny, I want to make a quick comment from a former captain. John Arbesnick just texted me here, and he's a smart guy. He sees the game. Just another shout out to our kicker. That's the way Flame sees it. He was the leading scorer tonight. Our kicker, Moody, again. Flame, I hear you, brother. Go blue with the kicker. That's from the captain.
The captain's in a good mood. All right. Hey, Trevor, we look forward to all of your features and your writing, and maybe we can talk to you next week.
Absolutely. And thank you both for letting me cut in on your time. So, Jim, have a great night.
All right, brother. Thanks a lot, Trevor. Hey, Denny, I just want to throw this out, and I'm just wondering about this as a coach. In my opinion, I would rather, if I get the bye week, I would rather play Rutgers or Indiana or one of those guys. I don't know if we were rusty in the first half, if the bye week had something to do with it. I don't know what our preparation was. we came along better in the second half. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just putting myself in the position as a coach. And there's a part of me that would rather have somebody like, Hawaii or Colorado State, or maybe a weak Rutgers team. I don't know. Just throwing it out there, Denny.
Okay, here's Adam on the feedback who says Michigan is close. McCarthy had his worst game through the air, and we still didn't punt until late in the fourth. His play will win us a big ball game. Well, I don't know. You say they're all big in November when you're playing for a championship, but I like I was saying, I think that there's nothing against Rutgers, Nebraska, or Illinois. Michigan plays like they did tonight. I think they can beat all three of those games, three of those teams. I think against Ohio State, they're going to have to bring it to a championship level. They know that. McCarthy knows that. The coaching staff knows that. But, I felt pretty good watching, that game. If you didn't watch Ohio State, it was an avalanche in the fourth quarter when they started scoring all those points and Penn State started turning the ball over. But Penn State was able to stop the Ohio State run. And, that was a pretty tight ball game. I feel more encouraged about Michigan's chances the way they've been playing after today of watching Ohio State, Penn State, and watching Michigan State and Michigan State tonight. Scar, do you agree with that?
Yeah, look, our Ohio State don't want no part of our run game. They don't want no part of our tight ends and all the RPO with JJ and all the stuff we're doing, the reverses, the Statue of Liberty. And I agree with you, Adam. I agree with you. I thought JJ I think he might have had his best game. And maybe we didn't complete as much passing, but he was a difference maker. I don't know 5-6 times. How many times did he save us on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, stepping up, getting and running, using his legs? The kid was unbelievable today. And that's the thing I don't want to defend as a defensive coach. Is when I think I got the guy boxed in, I got good coverage, I got good pressure, and this guy runs around and makes people miss. And he's playing for Michigan, so he was a huge factor in this game. I agree with you, Adam.
There you go. What else, Scar? As you take a look at this one, if people who are just joining us here, and they know that Michigan won this game 29-7. But they did fall behind. I mean, they got an early field goal. And then you had Keon Coleman coming up with a couple big plays. Michigan State takes the lead 7-3. And then you get into the second quarter. I mean, how are you feeling at that point right there? Are you feeling like, like this is, bad omen, Halloween weekend? It ends up being 5 field goals by Jake Moody. 22, 25, 39, 32, 54. It was a 13-7 lead at the half, but then 3 more field goals by Moody before finally Corum, after Michigan special teams was able to pick up a botched snap, right? The trouble with the snap for the Michigan State punter, and then Corum, 2 plays later, took it in for 29 points for Michigan. And you mentioned they win by 22. The 23-point line was too many, but just by 1. Scar, what do you tell the people?
Denny, as far as the comfort level, they were down 15 with the ball with about, I think, 12, 13 minutes maybe in the fourth quarter. I was not comfortable at all because they were down 16 last year against us, and they made plays. But our defensive scheme, and I'll say this, I think our run defense, I don't know if our total defense, but I think our run defense might be better this year than it was last year. I think our run defense, and it showed today. I mean, Michigan State ran the football on us last year. So, yeah, once they had the bad snap and we went up 22, then we were there was a great deal of comfort. But I was not comfortable at all because they did it last year against us. But
yeah, well, I look at last year's team, and Hassan Haskins was so fantastic against Ohio State. He had the 5 touchdowns and 169 yards and 28 carries. Michigan had nearly 300 yards, 297 yards against Ohio State last year. Blake Corum is, production-wise, is the equivalent of Hassan Haskins. He is having a great year. He should be talked about in the Heisman chatter because he has put up those kind of numbers. And so the Michigan running game, and what you mentioned with Donovan Edwards, he's not chopped liver. Like what he's able to do in the passing game, to me, he looks like, I know people don't care. It's just about Michigan, but he looks like an NFL, everything that people like in the NFL. He's got a burst. He can catch the ball. I mean, he can do it all. So you like that about him. So the running game looks good. The line looks good. The tight end looks good. The passing game in the red zone, that's where it's at. But the thing is, McCarthy, how many times did you see him tonight where he takes off the wheels and McCarthy running the ball? That's the real deal, Scar. We've seen it a few times where he could take off and get you a first down, where he can take off and get you 15, 20, 30 yards.
Yeah, there's no question, Denny. And it's a great deal. He's on our team, and we want to keep him healthy. I like that he's learning the slide. They've worked on him. Jim worked on him with that. Worked on that with him. We want the kid healthy, and we're doing a good job making sure that happens. But hey, let's talk about our offensive line, Denny. I think our offensive line, we pass protect real well. Michigan State schematically, it wasn't that our players weren't good enough to block them, but they really emphasized taking away our power play. And I'll take my hat off to them. I think our coaches needed to do a better job, because when somebody takes something away, Denny, they're giving you something else. It's up to the coach to find it. And it was the inside zone, which where we were having most of our success. But Michigan State took away the RPO, the JJ keep stuff, and they took away our power play. And our coaches needed to do a better job finding if they're doing that, and they got to be something else available. But I thought our offensive line did a pretty darn good job overall, blocking people, moving people when we needed some short yardage stuff. Just want to point that out. And you make a good point, though, about Donovan Edwards in the strength of his ability to catch the football and the problem he gives defenses trying to match up against him. And our coaches, I guarantee you, our game plan, one of the many things we did offensively was, where is number 4 for Michigan State? We wanted to know, where is he? And if whoever he's covering, if it was number 7 for Michigan or 86, we're going to exploit him. And we did a good job of exploiting him on defense.
If we're talking out loud, and you mentioned a little bit what Michigan might want to do more if Michigan State is taking something away, or if other teams are, but we have talked about the red zone, the touchdown red zone efficiency, which Michigan will want to improve on. Just thinking off the top of my head, when Michigan gets down there, certainly they want to jam it down the opponent's throat. I mean, if they're able to establish the line of scrimmage and they're able to push it backwards, they would like to have Blake Corum go through there and get into the end zone. We did see them on the touchdown. You mentioned it. They had like the double motion, and then the little flip forward to Corum. He was able to go in. That was nice. We saw the shovel pass that they have attempted down there against Penn State. That it wasn't, you talked about maybe the positioning of McCarthy being able to throw that ball. There's a lot of people that say, why don't they get the ball and throw it into the end zone? Can you get a back shoulder to Cornelius Johnson? Can you get a jump ball to Cornelius Johnson? Can you get Schoonmaker, as big as he is, boxing out in there? What are some plays that you think that if they will talk about that they might want to explore when they get down? What can they do more down in the red zone to have success getting it into the end zone?
Yeah, I don't know. Can we throw it up to Andrel Anthony? Does he give us a mismatch? I was a little frustrated with that short yardage pass there, Denny, where we end up kicking that field goal. But we've been pretty good. And, Denny, let me just say this again about coaching and the key to winning a championship. As an offense, we have to have the kind of offense that can move the ball against everybody and anybody on our schedule. And they're all going to do different things. And the great offenses can adjust to that and adapt to that. That's why I said Penn State would defend. I thought they would defend Ohio State. They did if they would have had any kind of offense. But Anyway, I think our offense has shown that they can move the ball against the different structures, the different philosophies defensively. So I'm not panicking about what Michigan State was able to do, and they do a good job with it. I'm not panicking. I'm not changing our system because we struggled today. Now, and then same thing with the defense. Our defense is able to stop the Indianas, stop what Maryland does. We stop what Michigan State does. And that's the sign of a good defense. That's a sign of a good team that can adjust and adapt to what the opponents are doing on a weekly basis, because they're not all going to do the same things. Their strengths aren't always going to be the same things. And the great coaches can make the adjustments and and put their players in positions to win on a weekly basis. So I'm not panicking on nothing. And we'll figure out what they did, Denny, in the red zone, and we'll adjust and not let it happen again. That's how confident I am in our coaches.
All right, and you pointed out already, Jake Moody gets a game ball. Blake Corum gets a game ball. You're going to give the defense overall the game ball, but Chris Jenkins, if you're giving one person on that side of the ball a game ball.
Denny, my guy, you like Corum. My guy is JJ on offense. Corum was outstanding, but JJ did so many things that were just ad-libbing and making things happen. JJ was my offensive MVP. Jenkins was my defensive MVP, and Moody was my special teams guy.
What about what's next here for Michigan? They got to go to Piscataway, and that is in New Jersey to take on Rutgers. The Scarlet Knights got blanked today, 31-0 in Minneapolis against Minnesota. It is on the road, so that is what's coming up next. And then the two teams following that Michigan will play before they see Ohio State, they played each other today, Illinois and Nebraska. The quarterback from Nebraska got knocked out of that game. The Cornhuskers were kind of staying close, but then I think it's Casey Thompson. He got knocked out. I was watching that game, 26 for Illinois, Nebraska 9. So Illinois hanging around there to make the home finale an interesting one if they continue to win.
Hey, Rutgers, they played the one quarterback. The kid that gave us trouble last year. They hardly played him, so he's playing a young quarterback. I don't know if he's already throwing the towel in, going to start preparing for the future. But Rutgers, it's a night game at Rutgers. Let's do all the things you're supposed to do, and we should be okay. But you just don't know what can happen. It's a game we should win. Nebraska's a good football team. They had their quarterback get hurt today. They were in that game until their quarterback got hurt. And Illinois plays real good defense. They got a good quarterback. That'll be there's no question that'll be the toughest of the three games. But we got them at home, and that'll be senior day. So our guys will be ready to go. Those are. I feel real good about these next three games. Just keep getting better and stay focused week at a time, man.
Yeah, look, Marvin Harrison Jr., number 18 for Ohio State, he's a great football player, but they don't have their best wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers that I've ever seen in college football, in Smith the Jigba, and we don't know what his status is. If I had to guess right now, I'm saying he probably won't play anymore until that final game against Michigan. But, that's huge for the Ohio State offense. As great as Harrison is and some of the other guys that they have there, we're talking about a superstar and his status being up in the air. You can't do anything about that, but it is something to think about.
Hey, I saw a Penn State defense slow down in a big way early on that Ohio State run game. I saw the Penn State offense move the ball against that Ohio State defense. And you know what we did to that Penn State offensive line. So there was a lot of things in today's game between those two teams that continue to give Michigan confidence.
All right. Well, Scar, we will we'll break down some tape on this one coming up on Monday, right?
We'll break it down. We'll take a look at some of the heroes, some of the stars, and look at some of them fourth down stops. And I'm looking forward to it. But again, my final thoughts, Danny, big win, composure. Michigan players kept their composure. We were mentally tougher. I don't give a dang what the score is in that football game. We beat them. It's Michigan State. They spent 365 days a year focusing on beating the Wolverines, and we're done with them, and we're moving on. And it's a great team win. We're healthy, and we're fired up.
All right. You sound fired up. You sound like you're ready to go. I love it. I was telling you, Scar will probably only go 20 minutes because, it's late. It's Halloween weekend, but you're fired up, man. Big Michigan win. 29-7. The Wolverines are 8-0, and they will be on the road next week to take on Rutgers. Thanks, Scar. It's great to see you. We'll talk with you on Monday.
All right, Danny, go blue. Big win.
For Jim Scarcelli, I'm Dennis Fithian. 29-7. That is the final. Thanks for watching.